faceoff. Shoots it, deflected. Right in. Peter Angelo save rebound. Stopped by Peter Angelo. I don't believe that save. Even as Peter Stastny. He can't believe the save that Peter Angelo just made on him as Frankie Sparkman. Now that maneuver there to stop and rob Peter Stastny. He should get 5 to 10 for that.
Hello and welcome to episode 79 of Tendy Talk, presented by the Hockey Podcast Network and the BLPA Podcast Networks. I'm your host, Joe, better known as Washed Up Goalie on social media. This week I catch up with Andy Nadeau, a goalie I first met when he was a youth hockey player sweeping up the arena while I worked hockey camps in college. And he's also the son of episode 8 guest Donnie Nadeau. We had a bit of a Zoom issue as a cutout towards the end, but we reconnected and finished the episode. So, without further ado, let's get to the conversation with Andy.
Joe.
Andy, how are you doing?
Good, yourself?
Not bad. Thanks for joining me on the podcast, bud.
Yeah, no problem.
It's been a day or two since we've last talked.
Yeah, it's probably been a good dozen or so years.
Oh,
maybe more. Probably closer
more
to 20.
Than that. Yeah, absolutely. So, how's life treating you?
Can't complain, really. You know, living the life.
Yeah.
Wife, 2 kids at home, stable job.
Yeah.
Still in Minnesota. Life is good.
Yeah, although there's some sketchy people you have to see every day at work.
Yeah, I suppose you could look at it that way.
Yeah.
No, I love being at work up here. I love being able to see, same place as my dad and all the people I, had as teachers. So
yeah, no, the office looks familiar because all of them look that way. What building is your office in? I'm
in the old press building behind the rink.
Oh,
so
yeah.
St. Mary's Press. So kind of between Mary's Hall and
used to be Joe's. Yeah,
Joe's is back there too.
Yeah, walk by it every day. 2 years. I was in Joe's and then I was in Pines. So two out of my 4 years, I walk by it every day going to the rink.
Yep.
Yeah. So, I know you've listened to at least one episode, and that being the one with your dad, episode 8, and here we are, 79. So it's been going a while.
Quite the testament, Joe.
Yeah, it was one of those. The wife and kids, they got tired of me kind of talking about wanting to do it, and it's funny because Ryan S. and I actually talked about maybe doing this together, and that's where the name Tendy Talk came from. I think it was S.'s idea, and we never kind of got it to work. In fact, I'm still trying to get him on the podcast, but his coaching duties have him busy all the time.
Sure.
But the wife and kids they just got tired of listening to me talk about it. So they're like, here's a microphone and a book on how to do it for Father's Day. What was it, 2 years ago? And in the book they said, most podcasts don't make it past 12 episodes, and if they make it to 12, that's still more than most. And I was like, all right, I want to make it past 12. And here I am, so many later, I'm happy with the body of work thus far. We'll see where it takes me.
Awesome.
Yeah. But, one of the things I like to ask every goalie is, how did you get started in the game? I know your dad played, obviously. And, I kind of like the story of your parents, meeting at St. Mary's and, they have you while they're still in school and they're bringing you to class. But how'd you get started in the game of hockey?
I mean, you kind of alluded to it. My dad comes from a big hockey family, himself playing his whole life. And he was surrounded, in the Woodbury area by, tons of great hockey minds that, came through St. Mary's and went elsewhere as well. So, I was always exposed to it. I never really had the urge to play. I was a relatively late starter for Minnesota terms. I think I started learning to skate when I was about 6 and I quit right away. I fell, I cut my lip, and I never wanted to do it again. A year later, I think I ended up going back. And just absolutely loving it from that point on. My dad used to build a rink for us in the backyard, and it was the mini Met Center. And my mom would make a sign, and he put lines in the ice, and it was a whole big deal. So that kind of fostered the love of the game, and from that point on, just kind of matured and nurtured from there.
Yeah, and then it'd be easy to say, oh, you became a goalie because of your dad, but what drew you to the position? What was it, dad, or
initially it was absolutely the fact that my dad played goalie. You always want to be like your dad. He's your idol and your hero growing up. So that's what drew me to it initially. In my first year of travel hockey, it was Squirt Bees, and we were not a good team. And we had a rotating cast of goalies, and I think we won one game the entire year. And I played, and we got our butts kicked, and I loved it. And it was kind of from that point on, I was like, all right, if you liked playing and even not doing that well, we'll stick you through it. So I think I played 3 or 4 times that year, and then the next year, Squirt Bees, I played every other game, and it kind of took off from there. Having a dad with the experience of goaltending, being a goalie coach as well really helped. But that initial draw was primarily because he played, and there's always that draw of seeing the guys on TV and their cool equipment and face masks and things like that. That's always so cool to see, and you want to emulate it. But that initial draw was very family driven.
Yeah, well, it had to help too. Not only just seeing them on TV, but you had the opportunity to come to the rink and go into the locker room of a college team and see it up close too.
Yeah, so it was once a week when I was in Squirts. My dad was the St. Mary's goalie coach here, and he'd take me to they had a weekly goalie clinic for all the goalies in the Winona area, including, St. Mary's athletes. And so I'd come and I'd just skate around, with my regular forward stuff. And it was just this awe-inspiring, like, look how good these players are and their cool gear. And, I could walk around and you see the varsity athletes getting dressed in their locker rooms. And it just kept that desire in me to play the position, stronger each time I went up there.
And because of that, it makes so much sense to me, but it makes me wonder, what the heck happened to your brother then?
You know what? My brother, so for those of you that don't know, my brother was a very successful forward, went through the Winona High School program and then also through St. Mary's. He did play goalie once in Squirts, and he got shelled and didn't like it. And my parents were absolutely okay with that. As a father now with kids in the youth program, my daughter's going to be hopefully a goalie this year if all things go the way she wants. I get it. I get not wanting to have a kid play goalie. So,
but I look at him, I'm like, all right, not only did you not become a goalie, but you became a Buffalo Sabres fan living in Minnesota, like of all the teams, like
a glutton for punishment.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, had he been a goalie, I could have seen him becoming a Sabres fan at that time because Hasek was their goalie. It would have made sense, but he's not a goalie and he still likes the Sabres.
No. And he was, he loved, we'd collect hockey cards and he'd collect goalie cards exclusively, and he'd put them on display. And Hasek was his favorite, and he was a big Pat LaFontaine fan too. So
yeah,
I think the name LaFontaine when he was little was novel to him, and that's kind of what drew him to the Sabres, and it stuck.
Yeah, that's funny. I think I told you the story, but when I was a freshman, my mom and dad got a new dog. It was a Newfoundland. It was a puppy, and they had one before, and they had to put him down, and they were looking for one, and they saw an ad in the paper, and just said, husband's been transferred for work. We don't want to move the puppy. So they go over to the house. It's, just this cute little puppy and rambunctious. And, they're talking to this lady, and, they see a couple pictures on the wall of the family, and, there's a picture of him on the ice. And my wife goes, "Oh, you guys hockey fans?" She goes, yeah. And, they keep talking. And then my dad goes, "Your husband's been transferred to Buffalo. What does he do?" And she goes, "Oh, he's a hockey player." And he's kind of like, huh? And it was when Doug Gilmour was traded from Chicago to Buffalo. They had just gotten this dog, and then they don't want to move the dog, so that they were just looking for a good home. So of course, like 2-3 hours later, after they've been talking, mom and dad come home with the dog.
Sure. In the story,
didn't have to pay for nothing. It was this little black Newfoundland. Of course, they had to rename him to Puck. But it was just kind of one of those funny coincidences. Like, who would have thought great. There? So, you mentioned your first year's Squirts. Things, you're getting shelled. Let's be honest. For those that don't know about Winona youth hockey, high school hockey, in terms of Minnesota, you're going to get a lot of shots most nights. Yes. It's not the Dinas or the Warroads of Minnesota hockey. And as a goalie who played in somewhat similar situations myself, you kind of said, I loved it. I was the same way. Yeah, the losing part sucks, but seeing all those shots makes you such a better goalie. I'm sure you had conversations with your dad that was actually a good thing for you playing on those teams, as opposed to, the John Marshalls or whatnot, where you maybe would have only seen 20 shots a game.
Right. Yeah. I mean, in terms of winning and losing, Winona, it's definitely not a hotbed of hockey in terms of the way Minnesota is laid out. It's much more a basketball, football type of town. He's come a long ways since I've played. It's gotten much more successful. Hockey it's better than it was, but losing a lot is tough. And I'm as competitive as they come. And it took me a long time to be okay with losing. I'm still not okay with losing, but the mental capacity of, okay, you did your best and it still wasn't nearly enough. It's tough and it weighs on you. And you don't want to dwell on the negatives, but if you're getting shelled and not getting the W, you got to find some positives somewhere. So it took me a long time as a youth, and even through high school and college, to find that mental safe space of, okay, you know what, I'm working as hard as I can. I got to find something that makes this game fun, because if you're not having fun, why are you out there?
Yeah.
So, and in terms of like games, seeing a lot of shots, I mean, I personally find that I play way better the more shots I see.
Yes.
And I think that's true of a lot of goalies. If you look in the NHL, like a goalie I look at is, Semyon Varlamov. I always watch him with the Avs, and even with the Islanders, he'd play his best when he was getting, upwards of 39, 40 shots a game. You get 18 shots, it's a lot tougher to keep your mind in it, keep your body fresh. So I think that's true of a lot of us. The more shots you're seeing, the better you're seeing the puck.
Absolutely. In fact, it was three beer league games ago, I had 58 shots in the game, and I was like just loving it. And we wound up winning the game like 4-2 or something. And it was like, this is what I love it. It's so much better than those times when you only get like 20 shots in a game. And I still remember my first game I played. We were playing the Ice Hawks. And it was one of those Saturday morning, 11 a.m. JV games, playing a junior B team. And, first of all, we're going from, high school where you're playing 17 minutes to 20-minute periods. So it's like, okay, got to make that adjustment. There's a couple more minutes in the game. And I'm going from seeing, I'm not joking. Freshman, sophomore year of high school, I would average about 60 shots a game. By the time I made varsity senior year, it was probably closer to 35, 40 shots a game. I think I saw 19 shots the entire game, and I was so bored back there. And I remember, in the locker room talking to Jeff Rose, is like, guy, give me something to do back there. I was getting bored. But then Rosie, he was funny because I made one of those, my style, and made one of those crazy saves where I roll over Hasek style. And he goes, that save you made where your legs were in the air and you were looking in the net. He's like, that was awesome. He goes, but never do it again. I had a heart attack. But I'm with you. It's just those games where you don't get many shots. They're not as fun. They're hard.
No, and it's really tough to find that mental routine of, okay, you're not seeing a lot of shots. You still need to find these. I do little tasks during each game of each whistle. I do something the same just to make sure my body is in control of the play. I'm in the same mindset as the game. I'm not letting it wander. So if there was a whistle, regardless if it's after a goal, offside, puck out of play, I'm doing the same thing. That way I'm just kind of focused and in the moment. I've been trying to teach, some of the youth goalies I work with the same thing, that, a lot of this sport is mental. And if you're letting your mind wander, your body's going to follow.
Yeah. One thing I started doing probably 2-3 years ago is I started counting how many saves I had in the game. Not because I was worried about stats or anything, but it helped me stay focused, because it's very easy to lose count when you're counting anything, but to stay focused when the puck's to the other end, it's like, okay, I'm on 15 saves still, and then when they're coming down, I remember, okay, 15. And then, they're in the zone. I make a few saves. It's like, all right, there's 3 more. We're up to 18 now. And I just started doing that, and it helped keep my mind from wandering. But every goalie is different. So, me telling that to, the squirt goalie that lives down the street might mean nothing, because to him that doesn't work. It's you got to find what works for you. It's interesting because, you mentioned your dad was coaching you really from the beginning, not just from the beginning, but through your entire playing career. Your dad was essentially your goalie coach. Because when you got to high school, he was still helping out with Winona Senior High while you were there.
Yep.
And then you make it to St. Mary's and you make it on the team and he's coaching you. What was that, not just player coach, but father-son relationship like? Because I know for a lot of people, when a dad's coaching you, it can be really hard. Was there kind of that understanding that, okay, when we're on the ice, when we're in the locker room, it's player coach, but once we cross that threshold, it's a different dynamic? How did that work for you guys?
I mean, and we never really had to worry about crossing a threshold, as a goalie. And then my dad, through youth hockey was always, either the head or the assistant, and not really a goalie coach per se. We didn't, you don't interact that much with the coach. Playing routine, for a lot of the games were alternating games. So it wasn't like you're fighting for the starter's net or anything. So we always had a really good, healthy relationship, throughout practices and games. Some of my best memories of childhood are, coming home from those late night high school practices and just talking about, hockey and things to work on and bouncing ideas off of each other. And then, watching Sports Center at home because you're wide awake after practice and can't sleep. I think the hardest thing for me as, the son of a coach is that the outward perception that, well, he's playing because his dad's the coach. And it's really tough mentally because why you're playing and you want to believe that everybody thinks the same thing you do, but there's politics in sports, and I'd be silly to not acknowledge that. And it's a hard dynamic to get out there, and you always want to go above and beyond and prove that you're playing because you're the best one for the job, not you're the coach's kid. And so and my dad was always really cognizant of that as well. And he distanced himself when needed. Once I got to St. Mary's and had made the team, he resigned from, the goalie coaching position to remove any sort of conflict of interest there. And while I would have loved to have him, all 4 years up at St. Mary's, I completely understood. And, his eyesight was getting bad, and it was the right decision. But that dynamic to, what people are thinking about you, completely regardless of your performance, it's taxing on a player.
You mentioned your dad's eyesight. I think some of his teammates would argue it was going years before they discovered it, but we won't pick on him because he's not here to defend himself, right?
Sure.
But no, I totally get that. And I mean, your dad is definitely a man of integrity and character. I mean, I think any athlete who's come through the doors at St. Mary's is, been impacted by him. And, not just the hockey players, but all the athletes interact with him, but more so the hockey players because of his relationship with that team. And I mean, just some of the, stuff he not necessarily taught me, but, emphasize over the four years we were together. And then, working with them as an intern through the Sports Info office, there's quite a bit of integrity there with him. In fact, Coach Olson, one of his favorite sayings was, integrity is what you do when nobody's looking. And, your dad definitely followed up with that one and, lived to that.
Yeah.
I think.
I had the honor of 2 years ago inducting him into the Sports Hall of Fame here at St. Mary's. And he's very much served as a father figure to a lot of people here at St. Mary's as they've come through the doors. And I think that he really does embody what the Cardinal Athletic and even the LaSallian spirit is here. And I've been pretty lucky to have him as a father and a coach and a friend through these years. And I think St. Mary's is really lucky to have him too. I think, as you can attest to, he's influenced a lot of people's lives positively throughout their time here at St. Mary's and even after beyond.
Yeah, I mean, I was lucky to be able to work with him really. And the one thing that really has stuck with me is I forget what the conversation was. It was right in those little steps right outside Coach Manner's office there. And, he was kind of picking on me. I said, don't I get any respect from you? He goes, respect is earned, not given. And I was like, oh, that was kind of like an ouch, but at the same time, made a lot of sense to me. And it just went a long way. you know, so getting back to, you know, you and your playing, you were literally born into St. Mary's. You know, you were born there, you grew up there. Did you ever consider going somewhere else for college, or was it just, no, that this is where?
No, I mean, I have papers I wrote from like fourth grade that, you know, what do you want to be when you grow up? And it was, I want to go to St. Mary's and play hockey. And that was my lifelong ambition. I looked into some other schools because, you know, like any good professional or, you know, athlete, you're going to look into all options. But St. Mary's was always kind of at the forefront, and there weren't ever really any other possibilities I could see myself realistically going to. So no, it was somewhat predetermined, and I'm happy that it was.
No other rival schools.
No, sure. that definitely was not going to happen.
No, that would have been awkward.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I didn't think, and I mean, same with your brother. Now, what I find interesting is, so you're in the environmental biology realm, right?
Yeah.
Which you probably enjoy, my little garden I got going on behind me.
My wife would love it. She's huge into gardening. So
see, we're trying it for the first time this year. So I think we started the seeds a little early, because it's like, all right, they keep getting bigger and bigger, and hopefully in the next 2 weeks we can get them outside.
Oh yeah.
But you know, you go into the environmental biology field, and then your brother kind of the same route, and he's, you know, a national park ranger. I'm guessing that passion started from your summer road trips as a family.
Oh,
every
100%.
year out to the national parks.
Yeah.
Like, what an awesome opportunity as kids. Like, every year you guys were just going on a couple week road trip.
Yeah, 2 weeks, minimum of 2 weeks every year. We road tripped it out to, you know, a new national park, you know, as a family, all four of us. And beyond my career influence, I mean, it had a lot of impact on me as just a person, you know.
Yeah.
Personal relationships and seeing the world and understanding and appreciating how much we have as a nation and we have individually as our family. It was huge. So
yeah,
my lifelong ambition was, you know, from that, I wanted to kind of be what my brother is, you know, park ranger. And while I'm not currently, and a lot of my job does deal directly with the Park Service, and I travel to national parks for a lot of my job. So
yeah.
So yeah, those family vacations definitely had an impact, and it's something that I'm continuing with my family as a parent.
Yeah, it's funny because when we go different places, I look on a map and say, okay, where's there a national park that's close by? We were out in Tucson a couple of years ago, and we hit both East and West Swaharo National Park, and
nice.
It was really cool because we were talking to the kids did the junior ranger program while we were there, and the ranger was asking the kids, you know, have you seen any lizards? We're like, yeah, they're just so cool, you know, they're awesome. So he goes, yeah, they're kind of like our squirrels. He goes, you guys see squirrels, and you're like, more squirrels. But I'm up by you guys. I'm like, oh, there's a squirrel. Look at that. It goes crazy. He's like, lizards are our squirrels down here. It's just kind of really cool that he was able to find out where we were from and then like make that connection to us. So we understood, you know, kind of the ecosystem, make it relatable to us in our home. It was really cool. And of course, then I took the kids to the biosphere up there too. That was really fun.
Oh, nice. I'm sure you didn't quote any Pauly Shore quotes from Biodome, did you?
No, but it was really funny because we were there and I think it was like December, and we're saying my old boss's house at the time was on a golf course in Tucson, and it's got this heated pool, you know, overlooking the golf course. So we'd get up every morning and watch the javelinas go out down the golf course. But it's like 60 degrees and the golf course workers are wearing parkas and knit hats and my kids are swimming.
Yep.
Well, Biosphere was at like 3,000 feet elevation, a little bit further up in the mountain. And Dad, take them. A cold front came through and it snowed.
Oh.
So the tour started a little bit late as, you know, the local workers were getting to work in this, you know, devastating snowstorm they had. Like, we're so sorry. Where's everybody from? We're like, well, we're from Minnesota. And this other family was from Buffalo, New York. And then there was another family from Wisconsin. And they're like, oh, so you guys are all used to this. We're like, yeah, no problem. And they're like, okay, good. And then like 15 minutes into the video before you can go on the tour, this couple comes walking in, they're just shivering and like, oh, where are you guys from? They're like, we're local. And like the rest of us just start laughing. Then we go out to our cars and it's just covered with like the tiniest dusting of snow. And like this couple, they're like, what are we going to do? Like, we're going to have to stay here till it melts. We don't have an ice scraper or anything. And like, we're all like, you have a credit card in your wallet? Just scrape the card off with that. And it was just so funny how they didn't know how to deal with it. And they're like, well, we can get into the car, but we don't know if we should drive in these conditions. But if you're not used to it, you're not used to it.
Absolutely
not. Where is I going with this now? All right. So the summer trips are awesome. You mentioned the kids. Your daughter, your oldest, she had a very unique opportunity even before she could skate. She got to sit in the Stanley Cup.
She did.
That had to have been pretty cool when John McDonough brought the cup back to campus and get that picture of her.
That was one of those once in a lifetime type of moments. It ended up happening twice because he brought it twice.
Yeah.
But she was 2, and the photo is right back here. She's in the cup.
Yeah.
I snuck out of work and took my daughter out of daycare and brought her up. He was meeting with the board of trustees in the trustees lounge here at St. Mary's, and I kind of snuck in with my dad, and we were taking some pictures. And the keeper of the cup kind of came over, and he's like, "That's not going to work." And he took the cup and he put it on the ground, and he's like, "Put her in it." So we put her in it and took some photos. And when he came back with the cup, it was what, 2 or 3 years later. We have another picture of my daughter standing right next to the cup just to kind of show how big she's gotten compared to the cup. And it was pretty cool. It was one of those highlights. Like John Buccigross randomly tweeted the photo of my daughter out that my parents had tweeted at him, and it was pretty special. She's gonna rock that photo for the rest of her life. No doubt.
That had to have been cool to do with your dad though too. The cup, and and it wasn't just like, I saw it at the Fan Fest when the All-Star game was here, and it was just, and that was great. I mean, the line, it took a while, but everybody was really calm because, you got up there and they're like, take your moment, find your team, touch it, and, we'll take your picture. It wasn't quick, get up there, take a picture and move. And then I saw it again when Nick Leddy brought it back to Eden Prairie after the Hawks won it. And it was funny because I took the kids and we got the picture of with the cup and Nick Leddy. And that was more of a move through because he was going to be taking it to the children's hospital. Everybody knew that. And so we get our picture and I send it to my wife, and I go, what do you think? And she goes, well, it looks like you and your life partner have a very nice Christmas card. And I was like, okay, I see your point there. So then I had to Photoshop them out of it and just kind of like squish us in. But it was just funny the way she was like, it looks like you and your life partner there, the way, because he had his arm around me and the cup. It was kind of funny.
Oh, that's awesome.
But it was one of those where, I took the kids out of school for the day. It's like, yep, we got to go see this because you don't know when it's going to happen again.
Or if it ever will again.
Yeah. So that was pretty cool. So your daughter's starting to skate and you say, she might be a goalie, you're hoping she's a goalie, but at the same time, now you're starting to experience being that goalie parent.
Oh yeah.
Have you been apologizing to mom and dad now as you're starting that journey?
They always knew that I understood what they were going through. Maybe not to the degree they were going through it, but I was aware. But with my daughter now, she's on U10. This is her, 6th year of playing hockey. And she's always said she wanted to play goalie, and she'd done it a few times in mites and really enjoyed it. And then this year, we had a 10-year-old goalie that she's a very good goalie, and she played all of our games. But there was a weekend where she was a close contact for COVID, and she was shut down for a week. And my daughter came in and she got to play goalie for those 2 games that weekend. And her first game we tied, and the second game we lost by just a goal. I think we lost 2-1. Just loved it. She absolutely loved it. And so that goalie has moved up next year, and my daughter really wants to fill that role. And she knows that it's going to be a lot to ask of her, and it's a full commitment. So if she's willing to make that commitment, I'm not going to push it on her, because, if you're going to force somebody to play something, that's a good way to make them not like it. Yeah. So
is Grandpa going to come out of his coaching retirement and work with her?
No, I don't think so. She doesn't. she responds much better to other people coaching her as opposed to dad or grandpa.
Maybe he can pull out the old videos he used to show at hockey camps.
Oh yeah, the Bill Howard and the USA Hockey training goalie videos. I'm sure they're still around up here somewhere.
Yeah, I can still hear that monotone voice, and it literally put me to sleep every time I had to put them in there. Yeah. I remember, me and Frisch and, Richie, we'd be like, hey, guys, wake us up when the tape is over. And we'd pull, a leg pad or two over as a pillow, and we'd fall asleep while those things were on. But God, I mean, to watch them now would just be, comedy.
A time trip,
Yeah, it's funny. This is new for the first time ever. Zoom is telling me there's time limits. Interesting. Well done. Usually not the issue when there's only one other, it's only two people, and good to know. So if you've listened to any of the episodes other than your dad's, I do like to ask people list of 10 questions. And the first one is, what's the craziest coaching moment from your playing days? And I know some of your coaches, it might include Fran.
It doesn't include Fran. It was a Bantam game, a Bantam Bees, and we had traveled to Shattuck St. Mary's to play, and we were actually beating Shattuck's B team. And there was like 5 or 6 minutes left in the game, and one of our players got railroaded from behind into the boards, and the referees had stopped play, and there was a scrum around him. Our coach was not my dad, but one of the other coaches was running to make sure our kid was okay, and one of the Shattuck players pushed our coach, like shoved him out of the way, and so our coach like grabbed him by the jersey and pushes him up against the boards, and like meanwhile there's the equivalent of like a bantam brawl right going on around him. So it was this melee of kids, 13, 14-year-olds punching each other with blockers and gloves on. Our coach getting punched by a kid while he's trying to make sure a kid's okay on the ice. It was kind of bedlam.
I think I remember hearing about that, because that was when you were a bantam. Yeah, you would have been working hockey camps when I was there. So yeah, I think I remember hearing about that. There was a lot that came out after that too. I think wasn't there possible legal proceedings?
I don't remember about that, but it's certainly possible.
Yeah, I remember there was all kinds of goofy stuff coming out of that one. So I think I know the answer to this one. What's your favorite all-time goalie mask?
Ooh. I mean, the obvious answer would be Waz Canadian's mask.
Yeah.
So I'll go with that, I guess. There's a lot. I mean, that's like asking a father to pick their favorite kid. Yeah. I appreciate all goalie masks for what they are. I really am a fan of the early 90s, simple, very matted, like Kirk McLean, Tim Shovelday, those kind of masks. They have very clean lines.
Yep. Well, and I had a feeling it was going to be the WA Canadians mask, because when you were playing at St. Mary's, you had that pretty much replicated to fit the St. Mary's. It was so well done too. In fact, I got my St. Mary's mask over on the shelf, to the side here, and same thing. I like that simple, clean line. See it from the stands, and that's why I just had the simple cardinal with the stick coming down. It was a clean mask. I remember Terry Mannery's like, I've seen a lot of St. Mary's masks while I've been here. That's in my top 2, right? That was, of course, before yours. I think yours probably eclipsed mine.
I was very happy with how mine turned out. I had drawn that thing out on graphing paper for the artist, and basically told him exactly what I wanted, and he nailed it.
So now I haven't seen detailed pictures of it, but I know Wah had kind of the Wah in the upper part here. Did you have something like that? Saying Andy or anything like that?
Mine stayed as Wah. That was kind of my other tribute there.
I like it. Perfect. What's your favorite rink that you've ever played at?
Ooh. That's a good question. McCall, Idaho. The entire players bench side of the arena is a glass wall.
Ooh.
And it looks out over the mountains and Payette Lake, and it's absolutely beautiful. I played there as an adult in men's league, and it was quite the experience. That's probably my favorite.
That sounds incredible. One of my top 2 favorite rinks. You're sitting about 150 yards from right now.
Yeah.
For many, just too many good memories in that rink. So what's your favorite stick that you've ever used?
Sherwood 9950 from here at St. Mary's. It was a custom stick I had done. Funny story behind it, but we had the Sherwood rep come into the locker room and was just modeling sticks. They had a deal with the Mayak at the time. This was going into my senior year. And I asked if they could do a certain pattern and everything. So yeah, just send us the fragments of what you'd like to see, and we'll get it done. So I sent it was basically a wash shaft and paddle with a Kolzig, slightly modified Kolzig curve, and they meshed them together and sent them to St. Mary's. And I had neglected to tell Coach O about it, so they billed Coach O for a dozen of them, and he footed the bill for me.
I still remember when I was there, you could get 3 sticks for $20, and we had the Christians and the CCMs at the time. It was the Toronto pattern Christian and the Kolzig CCM, and I was the only one using the Christians. So after my senior year, I was just going to get 3 more sticks, kind of a, hey, let's stock up at the end of the season kind of deal, and gave Coach Farron my $20. He goes, there's 6 of them left, just take them. You're the only one that's going to use them, so just take them. So it's like,
yeah, that's
sweet.
a Coach F move there. Yep.
Yeah, best deal I'll ever get on sticks right there.
No doubt.
What is your favorite youth hockey memory?
My same Bantam year, we took 3rd in the region, which is the furthest that any Winona team's to this day ever done.
That's not a bad one. So the next question is one I like to hear the responses to is, what's the best chirp you've heard on the ice, off the ice, directed at you, not directed at you?
So it's not all that great, but I was reffing a high school hockey game. So this is maybe a dozen or so years ago. And a coach was just screaming at one of my partners, just screaming at him. And he calls him over and I go with him, and he's yelling, we've got this game on video. And the coach and the referee, my partner, stops him right there. You got it on video? No way, I've got Braveheart on VHS. And the coach just shut up right there, and we skated away, and that was the end of the discussion. But it was so deadpanly delivered that it really stuck out.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. So what is the worst post-game beer you've had?
Oh, Ice House.
I laugh at that because that was the name of one of the hockey houses when I was there.
Yes, I do. But in Idaho, one of our men's league games, our team captain brought Ice House afterwards. And if it's not after hockey, I'll drink it. But man, that one game, one beer, and it was like, this is not for me tonight. It was rough.
It's funny you say it, because there's some beers that are really good beers, but after hockey, they're not. And I mean, I know you're a craft beer aficionado just like I am, but there's a lot of beers that I really like that aren't good for right after hockey. It's almost like the cheap domestic beers are perfect for post game. I don't know if it's because they're basically water to begin with. I don't know if that's the reason or what. Yeah. So next question. When you tape your stick or do tape your stick, do you go heel to toe or toe to heel?
Heel to toe.
All right. You're like most goalies. So we won't get it. I know the answer.
If you go toe to heel, you're wrong.
Yeah. So I know the answer to this one. But I'm still going to ask it. What's your favorite number to wear and why?
Number 1, because of my dad.
Yep.
And he wore number 1 because he liked Bernie Perrant.
I was going to say, most people were going to think it was going to be the WA because of what we were talking about earlier, but I knew it was not.
I did wear 33 for a year on varsity here at St. Mary's, but 1 was my number for almost my whole life.
Yep. See, when I first got there, 35 was my number in high school. my freshman year, Fred Hennon was wearing 35, and then Richie wore 35 after Fred, and so I was like, I'm not getting 30. Senior year was my shot at 35. So I went to the cabinet and found the biggest jersey that was in there, and it was number 39, and it fit me. Just the style I played. Sophomore year I had the Hasek helmet, so it was just perfect.
Yep.
And then I remember I went into the locker room after junior year, junior or senior year, and they put the nameplates up on the lockers and had 33 on here. It's like, what the heck? They just changed my number on me. And Terry's like, well, yeah, we have a few more road games this year. And as you know,
Are we back?
we are back. That's a new one for me. With Zoom just cut me off right in the middle. I'm going to have to figure that one out before my next recording here. So let me get my bearings straight here, because as you know, I'm a goalie, and I'm not always all that on top of things. I still remember when I had one of my concussions. I think it was my second one when I was at St. Mary's, and I went up to the trainer, and she's like, "What's wrong with you?" It's like, "I think I have a concussion." And she's like, "You always look like you have a concussion." I was like, "Gee, thanks."
Thanks.
Yeah. So yeah, we were talking about your favorite number, and I was saying, I went to the cabinet, got 39, and then I came in the locker room. It's like, I'm 33 now. What's with that? And Terry's like, we don't have a 39 in red, so we have a 33 in white and red. So that there you go. It's like, okay, because for the road for JV, we typically wore the old St. Mary's College sweaters, the old Montreal Canadian format one, which those were sweet jerseys. But I don't know. I just liked that New York Rangers style we had. In fact, I took
Classic.
I took my son to a Wild Hawks game a couple of weeks back, and he was asking me what our road jerseys looked like. I was explaining it to him, and then we were up in the 300 level, and then they had Trottier's 22 up there in the Mayak section. It's like, there, right there. And it was like, 'cause I always make them stop and take pictures with the, Peanuts characters.
Yep.
Like, Dad, you need to go over there and take a picture with it the way you make me take pictures. Like, all right. So, yeah, it was kind of fun.
Oh, so the funny story with that, were you there when Trotch's kid was at St. Mary's?
Yeah.
So you might have been working there, but he brought me back a game used Patrick Waugh stick from the Avs, and he had the entire team sign it for me. So I've got a Waugh stick that was game used against the Red Wings because it's stamped, and the entire 2000 Avalanche roster has signed it in Sharpie. That is like my prized possession in the goalie world.
I do remember that. So I ran into Trotch 3 years ago. We were playing. My son was playing in a baseball tournament. We're playing Edina, and there's this kid with the last name Trottier on his jersey, and he's wearing 19. And I was like, huh. So I start looking down the third baseline, and there I see Trotch and Joey all the way at the end. And so after the game, I went up, said hi to him, and so yeah, he's doing good. But that poor kid, freshman year, I don't know. I don't think you were at that JV game. Was the second game I played, and I just got ran. Had a terrible concussion and everything else, and I'm in the trainer's room, and varsity team's getting loaded up, and they're asking you, got anybody that can kind of watch you for a couple hours, make sure everything's fine? It's like, I don't know, probably. And your dad and Terry are standing right there, and they go shower up. You're coming with us. So we get on the bus, and Trotch is a healthy scratch that night. So he's got to sit next to me on the bus. And every little bounce of that bus, I was feeling nauseous. Never did get sick, but it was like every little bounce for the 2.5 hour bus ride up to the Twin Cities. I'm like, and it was, apparently they asked us what we wanted to eat before we got on the bus, because we stopped in Red Wing to eat dinner. And I told them what I wanted. I don't know. Thank God the team manager was there by me when I said what I wanted. So we get to this little restaurant. There's these two long tables, and then there's this round table with like 5 seats. I sit down at the little round table, and your dad comes up to me, goes, Joe, you can sit with the team. I was like, where am I sitting now? He's like, you're at the coach's table. I was like, oh, okay. So I start gathering the silverware and the plates in my seat. And he goes, no. They have those at the other table. And then the lady comes to me. She goes, well, what do you have? And I go, I haven't seen a menu yet. And she's like, it's only chicken or pasta. What did you tell him? And I was like, I didn't tell him anything. And again, I forget who the team manager was. He shouts it over, and guys like Stinny and whatnot, they're just getting a kick out of it, just watching me. And we hadn't played Hamlin yet, so I didn't know they were the Fighting Pipers, and it was at the old Coliseum. So we get out, Trotch and I go sit in the seats, and I see their banner. I was like, the Fighting Pipers? What the heck is a Fighting Piper? They're not scary. At that time, they were the doormat of the Mayak, so it made it even worse. So it was just like, oh my God, that poor kid on that bus ride having to watch me that whole day. I felt bad for him.
Oh, funny.
So the last question is, what advice do you have for young goalies?
I mean, I've already alluded to it. You got to have fun. I mean, you play hockey for a set portion of your life. There's no sense taking it too seriously and not having fun with the game. And it was a lesson I learned a little bit later in life that I wish I would have picked up on more in my high school and college days. But it's a fun sport. You're playing a fun position. I'm lucky to be doing that. Find little things and little wins in your losses so that you can always have an enjoyable time on the ice. Because the minute you're out there and you don't know why you're out there and it's not fun, well then why are you wasting your time?
Absolutely. So typically this is where I end the podcast, but we have a little more history than most of the guests I have here. I always like to ask this question of the St. Mary's folks. What did you think the first time you saw me on the ice?
I remember you just rolling. It was a late night counselor game. So I was up there playing as a high schooler, and you were probably a freshman or a sophomore. And I remember you doing like snow angels on the ice. And I don't remember, did you have a combo at that time or
I did my sophomore year, but I had an Eddie mask, a black Eddie mask my freshman year.
Yeah, I remember you doing snow angels and Hossack rolls and flailing all over, and I was a bit taken aback in terms of what's this guy doing out here, but it was fun.
Yeah, I still remember, that freshman year, as I told your dad, it's like there were 26 goalies that tried out. What the hell were you guys thinking when you
22 my freshman year? I couldn't believe how many goalies were on the ice for that tryout.
Yeah, and I said, what the hell were you guys thinking taking me? Because I wasn't one of the top 6. I know, I'm honest. I know that. And, I honestly think working that hockey camp going into my freshman year is what got me on that team, because your dad said, you're not always picking the best player, you're picking the best people.
Yeah.
And so
that's absolutely true, because you're picking a lot more of a team. When you address 3 goalies, at the varsity level, realistically, that third goalie is not going to see much if any time. And
especially the third JV goalie.
Yeah. But that's something I recognized as a player that, I traditionally for most of my time on varsity was that third goalie.
Yep.
And rather than bitch and moan about it, I kind of embraced it. Be the best teammate you can be. Find ways to lift your teammates up. Joke around on the bench, give them high fives as they skate off the ice. Clean up in the locker room. Make their lives easier.
Yep.
Be that good teammate. So I think that players may not always be picked because they're the best, but they might be the best fit for that position.
Yep. It's interesting you say that, because my senior year on JV, we had 4 goalies. I should not have been on that team, and Terry and your dad and Coach O, they brought me into the coach's room, and they said, they said the same thing. I was not one of the top 6 goalies in the tryout. They said, but they're not going to cut me. And I was like, well, wait a minute. That means you're taking 7 goalies. And they all said, for 3 years, I had just poured my heart and soul into the program that I deserved my senior year, but it was with the understanding, my playing time was going to be very limited, and I still got into, I think, 3 games that year. It helped that one of, actually, I think 2 of the goalies missed the Augsburg Cup because they wanted to play in the Battle of the Bands. That kind of helped my odds a little bit. But it, they said, kind of the same thing. You put so much into it, you become that personality in the locker room. There is that term, that the locker room guy. You might not have to be the clown or the outgoing guy, but there's the little things you do. And it was, just kind of being that leader off the ice, showing those young freshmen, the underclassmen, how do you do it? How do you work hard every day in practice so that you can maybe move up to the varsity?
Yeah. And in college too, there's the academic side of it too, where I tried to be a leader in the classroom as well. And I think that
I didn't reach that. I passed everything, but I wasn't necessarily the leader in the classroom. My dad, I remember the one day we were sitting down, we were at Boobs, having burgers. And he goes, you have the talent and the smarts to be an A student. Why are you not getting A's and everything? He's like, you're getting B's and C's. I know you can do it. And I looked at him and said, Dad, I'm not going to grad school, and C's get degrees, so I'm going to enjoy my time here. And he lifts his beer and he goes, I can't argue with that. And just, took a big drink. He was like, yep, can't argue with that. He goes, have fun, pass your classes. Yep. It was like, that's that, those hockey camps. So I've talked to a couple of the guys. In fact, I was skating with Alan Knowles last week, and every time we get together, we talk about camp and how fun that was. But I think of you. You grew up at hockey camp. You were pushing a broom for, it was 8 weeks, because you worked the girls' camps too.
8 weeks, yeah.
8 weeks every day you're there. But in turn, it also meant you got to skate those 3-4 hour counselor games at night. You got that week of camp yourself, and I mean, those camps were awesome. 4 hours of ice a day.
You couldn't beat it as a kid.
Away
from home,
so fun,
playing hockey all the time. It was living the dream. And I got to work it and do the skating. I mean, I basically, from squirts all the way through college, because I worked all through college, I was associated with that camp in one way or another.
Yeah. Now that you had a buddy that worked, pushing brooms. I can't remember his name. He was kind of a short little fella, stocky. Mm-hmm. There were 2 of you, and I remember you were both goalies, and you 2 would just pick on each other the whole time. And it was just like, the odd couple. You guys always just picking on each other, and you get on each other's nerves, and us counselors may or may not have egged you guys on.
Oh, I'm sure not.
But I'm sure you knew that. And there was nothing better than taking a nap on the
mats.
The mats, right outside the door.
The track and field mats.
Yeah, and then the trainer would come wake us up so that we could get the kids out of class.
Yep.
Those were some of the best snaps ever. Yeah. Well, Andy, I know you probably want to get home to the wife and kids.
Playoffs.
Yeah, that Blackhawks aren't in it. The season's over. But thank you for your time. It's always good talking to you and your dad. And I know you guys come up to the cities. When you come up, we got to get together for some beers.
Sounds good.
I know you guys go do some curling up at Blaine, and I'm not too far from there. So we'll have to get some beers together soon.
Sounds like a plan, Joe.
All right. Have a good one, bud.
Thanks for having me. See ya.
Yep. Bye.
Bye.
It was great getting a chance to talk to Andy again. He was a kind, hard-working youth hockey player when we first met. Over 20 years ago, hard to believe. Knowing his parents, I'm not surprised at the fine family man he's grown into. I look forward to having a beer with Andy and his dad the next time they're in the Twin Cities. Remember, you can always find me on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube simply by searching for Wash Up Goalie. Visit washupgoalie.com for some great hockey-related content, my beer league hockey video highlights, and of course, all podcast episodes. If you want some Wash Up Goalie or Tendy Talk apparel, be sure to visit my Threadless shop by clicking the merchandise link on my website. If you like this podcast, go listen to the BLPA Big Show. It's the OG BLPA Podcast Network show where a couple of beer league players talk beer league hockey, draft experience shenanigans, and exploits from around the game. Be sure to check out the full lineup of hockey-related podcasts from the Hockey Podcast Network as well. There are too many lists here, but shows like the Keeping Up with the Krakens podcast, the What Lies Beneath Seattle Kraken podcast, and the Blues Hockey Podcast can all be found. I need to thank the band Zambonis for allowing me to use their music on my podcast. You can download their music on iTunes or listen wherever you download music from. I'm working on lining up other goalies to talk to. If you are a goalie or have connections to a goalie who I should talk to, shoot me an email at washupgoalie39@gmail.com or send me a DM on social media. Let's not forget, if you're a brand who wants to sponsor the show, be sure to reach out to me. Be happy to talk. And finally, if you like what you hear, be sure to subscribe, rate, and comment on the podcast platform you're listening on. It's a quick action on your part that helps others find Tendy Talk. So, until next time, keep your stick on the ice and your body square to the puck.
Checked out Ketchell's Pond. He calls up Tommy Taylor. Tom said the pond, it froze right over. So get the nets and lace your skates and get the hot chocolate through your bones, babe. Get home. Tarkin.
Yeah, dude.
Hey, have you checked out the pond today?
It's funny you ask. I was just down there this morning.
Yeah, any good news?
Well, Dave,